See that? All right, you guys ready to kick it off?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, guys. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Russell Factor. I'm Sean Russell. I'm sitting next to D-Man, the man himself, Mr. Dylan Manzo. How you doing, Dylan?
Doing good, bro.
Awesome, man. It's good to see you,
good,
dude.
yeah.
Welcome to the show, dude. We also have a special guest for you guys tonight. A treat, a good friend of ours. Please help me welcome Mr. Richard Hussein. Richard, how you doing, buddy? Welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm doing good, guys. Thanks for inviting me here. It's a pleasure to chat fights and sports with you guys.
We're super excited to have you, man. Richard, dude, before we get kicked off, bro, how about we tell the fans a little bit about you? Give us a little feedback. Tell us what your favorite sports are, what you really like to get into, man. Let's dive in, man.
Yeah, man. I played sports my whole life. My number one sport has always been martial arts. I've been doing it for the majority of my lifetime. I started out in Taekwondo, then eventually discovered UFC. When you walk through Blockbuster and you see those old VHS tapes in the adult section that you need parental permission to rent. That's my mom to rent.
The fact you said Blockbuster just throws me back to a nostalgic state because that was a go-to for me when I was a kid. Both video games and VHS tapes and eventually DVDs. But now that's funny. But yeah, keep going, man. Tell us some more.
Yeah, man, I fell in love with the sport of MMA, about 20 years ago. I spent most of my life in the Bay Area, in the San Jose area, and I trained at AKA for about 10 to 15 years or so.
Very cool.
So I've got quite a bit of experience training in martial arts, MMA, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, boxing. But I'm just a huge fan of the sport. I love watching it. It was great. It was great chatting with you the other day. And,
yeah, man.
And yeah, you invited me onto this podcast to talk the upcoming UFC 306, so I'm excited about that. I'm also a big NFL fan. I'm a big Patriots guy. I was born in Massachusetts, so
man,
I got that. I got to grow up with,
Yeah.
Pretty
No, that's
good
awesome.
time.
Well, we were definitely excited to meet you the other day, man, and thanks again for coming on the show. I know it was kind of last minute, but we kind of threw it together, and it's going to work out. So yeah,
100%.
I'm excited to talk about UFC 306. Noche. It's that's kind of a
At
that's
the
a
Sphere.
Fun, at the
That's
Sphere.
me.
It's going to be the first fight at the Sphere in Vegas, so I'm super excited to see what that kind of
100%.
looks like. So, yeah, man. Well, let's get kicked off here. Since we're talking UFC, let's take the stage in that direction, man. Let's pick a couple fights. And maybe talk about some odds and some outcomes, and maybe what we want to think. And I think one of the biggest ones that the birds have been chirping about all week has got to be Diego Lopez and Brian Ortega.
Yeah.
And you got two guys that are just they're a little different in regards to the amount of UFC fights they've had.
Yeah.
You got one guy that's had almost 31 fights, I believe, and the other one has 16 or no. 19 fights. And so you got two different styles of guys there. I was just talking with D-Man about this earlier. We were talking about Diego Lopez.
Yep.
And I said that one of the things about Diego is I love watching the guy fight, but I feel like he wins more fights just walking to the ring. Like he has that mental fuck that he does with everybody. He just comes out, he just looks so aggressive and so mean. That haircut that he has with like that part over, it's a little longer on top. I think he wins fights before he even gets in the ring. What do you think, D-Man?
See, we're talking about Diego Lopez, and he's got a lot of flair. You can just tell from the haircut. He fights in a very exciting manner, and I think UFC is trying to prop him up to be this next, superstar kind of fighter. He's only started out, about a year or two ago, so they're trying to have this, new hot shot become the next big thing, and then comparing that to Brian Ortega, he's been such a consistent fighter for so long, and we talked about it in the pregame show here that he's had some big fights. We're talking about Max Holloway, and
fight,
he got absolutely decimated in that fight. It wasn't even close. It looked like it didn't even belong in the ring. But this is a completely different kind of fight. Everything's on the line here, and I'm expecting a good fight. I mean, what do you think, Rich?
Yeah, I like what you said, Sean. He wins fights before he even gets there. He is just hot. He is confident. He has swag. He has everything that the UFC wants to market a fighter.
100%.
He's a good-looking guy. He finishes fights, and he's an overall, all-around mixed martial artist. He's great standing up. He's great on the ground. And he just has the confidence. It's a really interesting matchup because Diego is new to the UFC. He's only been in about 2 years, I think. He
Yeah.
lost his very first fight, but he's been hot ever since. And then you got Ortega, who's been a veteran. I think it's almost 10 years in the UFC now.
Mhm.
He has a few losses though in the last couple fights. You know, that loss to Volk, the loss to Yair, he did win that one back. But I think the confidence, man, of Diego, I think it's going to play into. It's going to be a big factor in this fight. I kind of see Diego either finishing this in the second or third round or winning a pretty confident unanimous decision in this fight.
Yeah, 100%. And, I kind of take it back to football. He is inexperienced, but he has such a confidence and moxie to him. Yeah, I don't think it'll phase him. Yes, he only has 2 years under his belt. He only has, 19 fights under his belt. But I think just having that confidence, knowing that, okay, I'm coming into a fight where I can propel myself to being a top 5 fighter in his weight class.
Yeah.
I think, round 2 or 3, I think that's best case scenario. I think it might go a little longer than that. I think Brian Ortega's, consistency and, longevity, I think, will help him in this fight. But what do you think? How do you think this fight
that's a great point. And I definitely wanted to talk about some odds in this fight because I think the numbers are definitely favored for Diego Lopez. I want to say last time I checked, he was like a minus 190 favorite on the money line for the fight. I thought about this earlier. I'm not sure if we see this go the distance. I mean, you got 2 featherweight guys. They both made weight today at 145 pounds. I was watching the weigh-ins earlier. They both made weight today. You got Diego, who's 5'11". You got Brian, who's 5'8". Little slight reach advantage. One's orthodox, one's a standard traditional fighter, and it's just I don't know. There's a lot of variables here. You got a very seasoned veteran Brian Ortega versus a fairly young but very fast-tracked Diego Lopez. And I don't know. I don't think it goes the distance. But I'm going to roll with the money line. I'm going to go with Vegas on this one in regards to Diego Lopez winning the fight outright. Does it go submission? Does it go KO? I don't know. It's just too volatile for me. What do you think, Rich?
Yeah, dude, it's just that when you get beat decisively, it affects your psyche as a fighter. I really think that, and I think in the last couple fights that Brian's had, he's kind of showed he's a little hesitant at times. And Diego's 100 miles an hour. I really just see him coming in and dictating the pace of the fight, controlling where it is, whether that's standing or on the ground. I kind of see Diego trying to outstrike Ortega, to be honest.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's the right game plan for him. But he's got to show that he's a veteran. Hey, I've been here. I've taken beatings. I can handle it. He's overcome odds. It's going to be a great fight.
I think so, too. I think we're not going to be let down at all. I say that, but we've had some fights we watched this year where we're like, hey, we're the highest expectations and just let down in the first minute of a fight. But I hope we don't have that. I think we're going to see it. Let's do around the table. I'm going to go Diego winning. D-Man, what are you thinking?
I got Diego winning.
Diego, Rich, what are you thinking, my man?
Yeah, I got Diego on this.
All right. Well, there you guys have it. All 3 of us unanimous. Diego. Since we're on that topic, I think let's just go. Let's take the top 3 fights. We've got Alexa Grasso, Valentina Shevchenko coming as the co-main event, right? And I love both of these girls. Very, very similar fight styles. And you've got Alexa, 20 total fights. She's, I want to say 16-3-1 draw, if I recall. And then you've got Valentina, who is 28 fights, and she's 23-4-1 draw. And so both of these fighters are going in with a couple of losses under their belt, a couple of draws under their belt, but they're both pretty seasoned.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the under. We'll talk about it in a minute. We'll talk about odds in a second. But Rich, this is gonna be a great fight. I think they picked a good set of girls for the co-main event here. What do you think about Alexa and Valentina, man?
This is such an this is such a competitively matched fight because Shevchenko dominated the 125-pound division for 5 years. Nobody even came close
to
even being able to compete with her. And I really think that aside from Amanda Nunes, Shevchenko's the greatest female MMA fighter of all time. But the thing is, though, Grasso hits hard. And I think in the very first fight, Shevchenko felt it. You saw her go for a
Oh, yeah. She got the stunner, dude. She had the stunner.
I think she felt Grasso's power and decided to try to grapple with her, thinking, "Hey, you know what? I'm an all-around mixed martial artist. I can do everything. I'm just going to take her down and submit her." And she couldn't. She actually ended up getting submitted, which was, a huge upset.
Yeah.
And then when you looked at the rematch, Shevchenko was much sharper when compared to the first fight, but she was still hesitant. You could tell her guard's tight. She's hesitant to let loose. I think Grasso, if she can stay on her game, I think she could put Shevchenko away. But I love watching Shevchenko. She's one of the GOATs. I think I'm going to go with Grasso on this one.
Yeah. Okay.
See,
D-Man, what are you thinking?
I've been kind of thinking about this for a while. My brain is telling me Grasso. I think we talked about Psyche a little bit. I think she has that advantage over Valentina. I'll just call her Valentina. Her last name's too complicated right now for me.
Shevchenko.
Right. But that first fight, huge upset, and that second fight, very evenly matched. And I think Valentina's kind of feeling that pressure a little bit. As she's been seen as the favorite going into these kind of fights with Grasso, and it just hasn't materialized. She's still trying to figure out, Grasso, and Grasso kind of already has, and kind of already did. I know every fight's a new fight. I would like to think that Valentina is going to come back and, even the score, so to speak. But man, I might have to change my opinion. I think Grasso, just thinking about it in my head, I think she has that. She has the mentality over Valentina. I think Grasso's going to win. Now, I don't know if it's going to be KO, RKO, what it's going to be, but I think Grasso will take it.
Yeah, I'm glad I stopped myself from saying what I was going to say earlier because I want to hear your guys' opinions. But I'm also on the Grasso bandwagon for today. She's obviously favored. She's the favorite in the fight going tonight. I don't remember what the line was on it, but it wasn't huge. I think it was like 135 or 140, something. It was minuscule, but it was still a favorite for the fight. Valentina, though, man, Rich, you said it, man. She's just she's one of the GOATs, man. And I love watching her fight. I love what she does. That southpaw style. She's a 5'5" fighter. That 125 weight class. They both made weight today as well, which is great. So I'm glad to see that. There's not much of a reach advantage for either one. I think this is so damn competitive and well drawn out. This is going to be one of the best coming events I think we're going to see this year. Yeah. Next to UFC 300, where we had the two Asian girls that were fighting, but that was amazing. Yeah. So I am going to go Alexa Grasso favorite. I don't necessarily see this going a submission or a strike. I think we see this go to decision. Really? That's just I think we're going to see.
I think so too.
It's so evenly matched.
I think so too.
Unless Alexa comes out and just uses that powerhouse power that she has and just stuns Valentina. I think this goes to distance. Rich, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that. And it's funny. I'm picking Grasso in this fight, but I actually do think Shevchenko won the second fight. That judge who scored it at 10-8 for Grasso, which ended up making it a draw. But if you just watch the fight, when you see fighters' body languages, I really think that Grasso has a confidence level to her, and Shevchenko respects her power a lot. I don't really see it going much different in the sense that she's not going to really be able to get off on Grasso. I think Grasso is going to be too powerful and be a little bit too overwhelming. She's had 2 fights with Shevchenko now, so I think she kind of knows what to do in this upcoming fight.
I agree. Well, let's do this. Let's take it to a vote. I'm going Grasso. I'm pretty sure now this is going to go. D-Man, what you doing?
I'm taking Grasso.
Grasso. Rich, what are you taking, bud?
Yeah, I am taking Grasso. As much as I love watching Shevchenko, 100%. One of the GOATs.
So I love it. All right, there you have it, folks. That's all 3 unanimous decision. Hopefully we'll see that in the fight ring if it comes to decision making there. Obviously, we got to talk about the 2 big names of the week. We got Sugar Sean, we got Merab, man. I think this is going to be a hell of a fight. D-Man and I were talking about this earlier. I'm gonna instead of giving my opinion on this fight, I'm gonna throw it to Rich. I'm gonna let Rich dictate this fight here. You lead us off, bud. You tell us what you think and tell us where you're gonna go here, and then we'll give our commentary on the backside.
I'm surprised to see that Merab is the favorite in this, and the reason why is because Sean has just been so dominant with everybody that he fights, and people always question, can Sean handle a strong grappler? Well, he proved that when he fought Aljo. And not only that, but he was injured going into that fight and was still able to handle Aljo's grappling attempts. And I don't know if you've seen Aljo, but he is huge.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
I really think, and Merab being a little bit smaller than Aljamain and quite a bit shorter than Sean O'Malley, I really don't see how Merab can really get to him. I think Sean's going to dictate where the fight's going to stand. It's going to be a stand-up fight. I really think it is, and I think Sean's going to use his distance. He's going to pick him apart, and then that nuclear bomb that he has, I think he's going to land it in the second or third round.
Yeah. D, I'll let you take the second round of this, man. I'll follow up the bottom of it with the third. So.
Well, I completely disagree. So I think, I've seen a couple, fights from Sean, and I haven't really seen. I mean, you mentioned the previous fighter who's mostly a grappler, but I think Merab. I think he's kind of a different beast. He's just a phenomenal grappler when it comes to that. And you mentioned the reach. You're saying you're not sure if Merab's gonna get to him. I think he will, and I think all he needs is a couple situations where he can get in there. And I always favor these grapplers because, man, they're just so good. It's I always think back to the McGregor and Khabib and Makhachev, like phenomenal grapplers. These European guys, if they got you, it's hard to escape from their grasp, so to speak. So I actually wasn't aware that Merab was a favorite, but even if he wasn't, I still would have taken Dashvili. I don't know what the result is going to be. I don't think it'll be by decision. I think one or the other is going to either Merab's going to get him to tap out, or his or Sean's prowess landing punches is going to eventually have him win through KO or RKO. So I'm taking Dashvili. My personal opinion. What do you think?
So I gotta step back for just a second. So thank you guys both for that commentary. By the way, I love Sugar Sean. Obviously, my first name's Sean, so we've got a natural connection there. But no, I've always liked watching this guy fight. He has such a crazy heart. I was talking with D-Man earlier this morning. We were at breakfast this morning, and we were talking about today's podcast and everything. And I was saying that Sean is one of those guys. He's so now he is a switch fighter, right? Traditional switch fighter, but he's very unorthodox with how he adjusts like a chameleon in the ring. No matter what the fighter is, like if he's going against a grappler, he may train for 3 months one way and then fights completely different style in the ring the night of the fight. It's like he disregards everything he's put his mind to, but he still wins. And I think the reason for that is because he just always is at the right place at the right time in these fights. He throws the hand and just happens to make the right connection. Whether it's skill, yeah, there's a lot of that involved, but I feel like I don't want to say luck, but there is a lot of instincts and just like almost like an angel on him. You know what I mean? Like he's just almost there. However, that being said, I think this should be a good fight. If Merab does get low on him and is able to get underneath Sugar Sean, even with the fact that I want to say Sean's reach was like 72 inches and Merab's like 68 inches, so that's like a 4-inch reach advantage there, if I recall. I think like Rich said, I see Sugar Sean keeping the distance and picking him apart, but I also agree with Dylan. It could happen to where Merab gets underneath him and takes him to the ground, and then we have a whole different dialect or dialogue here.
It's a whole different fight if that happens.
I don't. Like I said, I'm excited. I haven't seen any of the preview trailers for the fight to date. I'm excited to see some of those tomorrow, to see some of the training camp stuff and some of the things that are going on there. However, I was just looking at the numbers a little bit ago. Sean is actually the favorite right now at minus 135. I honestly don't know where I want to go with this, but my heart is telling me I've got to go with Sean on this fight. Both of these guys are very close in the number of fights that have been in UFC. One has 19. I think Sean has 19. He's 18-1. Merab is 21 fights. I think he's 17-4. So he's got a couple more losses under his belt than Sean does. But I think this is going to be an ultimate fight. I got to go with Sean on this one. I'm going to roll with him. I don't like saying this, but I feel in my heart it's going to go decision. And I think Sean wins this out. Main event. I think he gets the card.
Okay.
I don't. So what do you guys think? I'm going to go Sugar Sean decision. round 5. I'm a D-man. What do you think?
Oh, Dutch belly. Yeah.
Okay, so we got 1-1 now. What do you think, Rich?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Sugar Sean with a 3rd round TK on this.
Ooh, we got a little spice and everything nice in this one. I like it.
Yeah. You know what though? Like the thing about Marab though is he's one of those guys that he wins. He always wins. He always finds a way to win, and I would not be surprised if he just takes it to Sean. But I just think Sean is so hot. He's so confident. I see him pulling it out.
Yeah. Well, I think we have a okay early prelim card. We have a decent prelim card. And in the main card, we've got some big name fights on there. We got Ortega, Shevchenko, Sugar Sean. I mean, I'm super stoked. Tomorrow's going to be a good card. I'm excited for it. Before we move over, I want to spend some time talking some football here too. But before we move over, Rich, any last words you want to add in regards to what we're going to expect tomorrow? Do you have, if you've looked at the card, obviously, do you have any matches that you think are just going to be an upset? Let me ask that. Do you think there's?
In terms of an upset, that's tough to say. But I actually think what's really interesting that we haven't talked about yet is the fact that this fight is in the sphere.
Oh yeah,
Dana White has said multiple times that this is going to be a different type of event than we've ever seen before. But he's been very cryptic about what that means. He's mentioned there's going to be Easter eggs. That people can, if they find all the Easter eggs, they can win $25,000. Like, what does that mean? What are the Easter eggs going to be?
Yeah.
How are they going to leverage the screen, that surrounds everybody? Like, I'm just so excited to see what this event looks like. And like Dana White said, this is the only time it's going to happen.
We were talking about just getting in the car and heading up to Vegas and getting there just to experience it because I guess I mean I know they say it's going to be the only time, but I think if the turnout happens and it's something that turns into something that's very profitable and that's going to be a really good experience, I wouldn't doubt that Dana White allows this to happen again.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell us one thing and say, oh, it's just a one-time event. Yeah, the number's going to be high. Everyone's going to sell out.
He's talking politics right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's money and money and marketing, man. But excuse me. No. So I agree. I think the Sphere is going to be a super cool experience. That immersive experience with the screen is going to be cool. I'm excited to see what that looks like. I'm excited to see how they experience or how they portray that to viewers watching on TV. Because we're not going to get the full experience as a person there in the stands is going to get, right? But I'm excited to see what we see, what that looks like as a viewer level there. But no, man, I think I'm excited. This is going to be a good card. Let's shift gears a little bit, man. We got some really good football for week 2 going into the NFL. I have a few games in mind I want to talk about. Do you have anything that's on your chest that you want to talk about, or do you want to get out there, or what are you thinking?
I mean, I know earlier, I think yesterday you wanted to avoid talking about Bengals and Chiefs, and we had that dialogue come on, dude, we got to talk about the Chiefs and Bengals.
I agree.
Just because, obviously Burrow and Patrick Mahomes, but, there's a couple other interesting matchups that I'm very excited to talk about. We could talk about, the Chiefs and Bengals. I know the first thing right here is the Niners and Vikings. Niners obviously favored by the spreads at 5.5, and I don't think the Vikings. They had a surprising, maybe not surprising because the Giants are just terrible, and Daniel Jones just not the answer. They're gonna have to tank and then get a new quarterback next year to pair with Neighbors. But I think the Niners. They're gonna roll through this regular season. I expect them to be obviously contenders for the NFC, and. Yeah, the Vikings, showed out well defensively against Daniel Jones. Who wouldn't? But I think this is gonna be a pretty easy win for the Niners.
Yeah, I'm excited to see them travel on the road. They're going out to Minnesota. They're gonna face a Sam Darnold that's out there. Brock Purdy had a pretty okay game last week.
He was a game manager.
It was a good game. I think everyone's biggest fear is what are the Niners going to do now that Chris McCaffrey's not going to play Sunday?
I have no questions. Jordan Mason was doing his thing.
Yeah, Mason and you got Debo, both guys in the backfield. Obviously, or you got Mason out on the backfield next to Debo, and then I think the one thing that I think Brock Purdy is going to leverage even better is going to be Jennings out there in that wideout slot. I think he's gonna have a blow up game there, especially with less touches going to McCaffrey. I think it's going to be pretty good there. But I'm interested. What are your thoughts on? Obviously, you said the Niners are going to roll through the season. Yep. I think we're going to see a very similar Niners than we saw last year. And we've got Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. We'll have Christian McCaffrey back. You got Mason back there now too, and then you got a Brock Purdy who's coming in. He's got a couple of seasons under his belt now. Yeah. And I'm just curious, what do you think? Who's going to be the shining star this year on the Niners? What do you think?
I mean, shining star. I mean, they have quite a bit of them. You know, they spend so much money on those shining stars, like you talked about. You know, eventually they're gonna have to pay Brock Purdy. I don't know how they're gonna have enough money.
They're not.
I mean, they
just had to take a fee for signing Brandon
Ayuk. Well, they're gonna have to pay Brock Purdy. I don't know what they have to do, but I mean, they have Kittle under contract. They have Deebo Samuel under contract, Ayuk under contract, McCaffrey under contract, and then you got your defensive stars, Fred Warner. I mean, they're gonna lean on the guys that they've been leaning on the last couple years. So. You know, I don't know. I mean, maybe a little more of Jennings, because Jennings was also that guy that, you know, people often overlook because you have all those weapons on the offensive side of the football. So, you know, he will get definitely additional opportunities they probably wouldn't otherwise get last year. He just building that trust, building that camaraderie with Brock Purdy. So they're locked and loaded on both sides of the football. But, you know, regarding this game, I think they cover the 5.5. I think they win by a couple of touchdowns. I can see it being anywhere in the ballpark of, you know, I can see it 31-7, 34-7. Fairly easy game for the Niners. It doesn't matter that they're going on the road in Minnesota. They're inside anyway. It's not like they're going to be.
Yeah, they're not going to freeze to death.
Yeah, they're not going to be.
No, I was talking with a guy earlier this week, and he's from Minneapolis. Yeah. And he was like, you know, so who do you got, you know, going into the Niners Vikings game this next week? And I was like, well, prior to this, it was prior to Christian McCaffrey being out. And so I was like, oh, I got Niners all day long. They're going to just roll over like a tank and just, you know, do their thing. But I think they're going to go. I actually like the number you said, 31-14. I like 31-14. I think that's a really good.
I think 31-7. I don't think they're going to score.
You don't think Darnold's not going to do it on?
He's not going to do anything.
So I got the Niners winning. I can't remember what the over-under was. I think it was like 46.
46 and a half.
46, yeah, 46 and a half.
I think it's under. I think 46 and a half is a lot. Yeah. Niners, they don't really blow teams out like that.
They don't.
It's a dominant 34-0. It's a dominant, like, you know, win, but the score doesn't reflect that, so to speak. They'll dominate the game, but I think it'll be under the 46.
Yeah, I definitely. If you're gonna place the bet out there for you guys watching now, I would take the Niners money line if you wanted to add something to a really strong 2 or 3 game parlay. Right. But if you want to be ultra conservative and take the extra money, I would take the under all day long. Under 46 and a half, I think that's a solid bet. So there you all have it there. You mentioned D. And Rich, feel free to interrupt us, man, anytime if you have any insight in regards to what we're talking about. But
well, you know, I would actually just say, you know, I lived in the Bay Area for a while, and the Niners are just always an exciting team to watch. They're probably the best team in the last 20 years to not win the Super Bowl.
100%.
They consistently.
I like that phrase. I like that statement. So.
I mean, they consistently go. I think what have they been to 4 or 5 NFC championships in the last 20 years? You know, 2 Super Bowls. You know, they always have a strong team. It's just always interesting to see that they haven't been able to quite win the big one, even though they have the talent to do it. It'll be interesting to see how they perform this year, especially coming off the Super Bowl last year.
I agree. Obviously, I'm a Chiefs fan, so I've got to watch them now twice beat the Niners in Super Bowl, so very exciting there. But no, I agree. You said it best. I think they're one of the best NFC teams to not win a Super Bowl in the last 20 years. Yeah. This isn't the Joe Montana, Steve Young, Jerry Rice days that we saw in the 90s. So it's definitely been a minute for them to have. But they have so much talent. I would say they probably have the team has more talent than probably any other team in the NFL. I mean, they are stacked, especially offense. Yeah. But they're just a stacked team. I tell you what, Dylan, only because you brought it up, and obviously we're talking about the Chiefs now and the loss or the beating the Niners and everything like that. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Cincy is traveling to KC this week. We're going to Arrowhead Stadium, my backyard for 25, almost 30 years. Joe Burrow is coming off a loss, opening out day to the Patriots. I am interested to see what he brings to the table, because traditionally they don't beat the Chiefs. We were talking to Liz about that earlier this week, but I'm curious, since you brought it up, what are your thoughts in regards for Joe Burrow and the Bengals traveling to KC, taking on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs? I'm kind of curious to see what your thoughts are on that one.
I mean, the Bengals did beat the Chiefs about 3 or so years ago when they won the Super Bowl. The difference is they came in with no expectations. They're the underdog. It's pretty easy to beat a team when there's absolutely no expectations, when all the expectations are on the Chiefs like it is every year. That's why it's so impressive they're doing what they're doing. But anyways, I just don't think the Bengals really have a chance to win. You know, in previous years, you know, when they made it, you know, when they're either winning that game in the championship game or making it super competitive, and probably should have won that championship game a couple years ago. You know, they were locked and loaded. You know, no questions. You know, on just off the field stuff. I mean, you've got the Jamar Chase. Did he get paid? I'm not sure if he got paid yet. He didn't play against the Patriots.
Yeah, so. I know he was sitting out week 1 because he hadn't come to a deal yet. I don't know if they've done anything this week yet. We've been traveling so much and doing so much stuff this week. I haven't had a chance to really stay up on all of the contract issues that we've seen opening this season now, but I'm not 100% sure.
Like everything's gearing towards the Bengals don't really have a shot against the Chiefs. It's in KC. T. Higgins on the injury report.
I was just going to bring up the fact that T. Higgins is doubtful.
Jamar Chase not going to play. They played terrible against the Patriots. I mean, it's week 1. I don't know. You know, maybe the Patriots surprise us. Instead of being a 2-win team, they're a 4 or 5-win team. I don't know. But it wasn't a good look in week 1. I mean, it's the wrong kind of momentum they're going into playing the Chiefs in week 2. And, you know, I think in terms of the line, in terms of the spread, you know, for our viewers, I'm 100% taking the Chiefs. Now, the problem with the spread, it is 6 points. And so I can see the Bengals making it close, but in the end, I think the Chiefs will always have this game under control. I'm a little hesitant on the spread. I know Bengals are kind of in a weird spot right now, but I'm 100% taking the Chiefs.
100%, I agree. I got the Chiefs winning this by a landslide. I think, in fact, you bring up the spread. I want to agree with you. It's at 6 right now. God, I feel this will probably be a 14, 16-point win for them.
They always play close. It doesn't really matter where it's at, what the circumstances are.
I just think that we've seen this wrist injury from Joe Burrow, right? And he says he's fine, but clearly he's not.
Yeah.
Right. He went 21 of 29 last week for 160 some yards. You know, Patrick went 20 of 28 for almost 300 yards. Right. They're in our own backyard. They're in Arrowhead. It's Geehaw Field. They're not going to do anything too devastating for the Chiefs. Now there are some. I mean, and then T. Higgins being out again, like I was saying, he's doubtful. I don't think he's going to play. But I think with the injury Joe Burrow's coming off of, T. Higgins being doubtful, the fact that they're traveling to Kansas City and we don't lose in Kansas City very often, I just don't see this being anywhere close of a game for Cincy. I like Joe, and I think he's a great quarterback. I just think he's got too much turmoil in his life right now, and the Bengals have too much going against him for this game to even be even fair for that. Rich, do you have any comments on that, man?
Man, I just know the Chiefs, they're just ridiculous.
Yeah.
They can't lose, it seems like. And, being a New England fan my whole life, I know what that feels like.
Yeah. I was going to say, you lived it. You had that dynasty while you were a Patriots fan.
Yeah, I mean, I see similarities in terms of the dominance. Just is what it is. I feel bad for any team that has to face the Chiefs every week.
I love that.
and we talked about this last week. I mean, there's a huge, and I respect the Chiefs and the Patriots when they're in their dynasty days. I respect those two franchises so much because it's super easy to come in, every other year, being the underdog, surprising people. But to be the Chiefs and Patriots in their heyday, and to consistently every year to be the favorite, and consistently, meeting those expectations is a lot easier said than done. And they consistently do that every year, no matter the circumstance, no matter the injuries. So I think that's what sets these two franchises apart. Obviously Patriots are trying to get back to what they used to do. Obviously, they need to take care of the quarterback situation. Who knows? Maybe Drake May will be the answer. Obviously struck out with Mac Jones there, but with a rookie quarterback, there's always optimism. So hopefully we get to see the Patriots at some point, do a lot better than they have in
Yeah.
a couple of years. It's all about taking care of that quarterback position. If you don't have a good quarterback, you don't really have a chance.
And I think ever since Brady leaving, Belichick leaving, like I think that whole team is just there was so much heart that walked out the door
Yeah.
with that team that it's been kind of I say the word turmoil, but it's been turmoil for the New England Patriots
They're
for a couple
rebuilding
years
right now. They're rebuilding.
100%, I agree. Well, since we're on that path and we're talking about teams that have been struggling and things like that, let's shift gears. Let's talk about the Saints traveling down or over to Dallas and playing the Cowboys this week. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cowboys had a phenomenal Week 1 win, but it's kind of tough because the Browns, they just have been underachieving, specifically Deshaun Watson. That contract is looking absolutely dumb, obviously, but hindsight's 2020. Looking back at it, Deshaun Watson was playing like a top 10 quarterback, but who knows how quality of a win that is. But they're playing a Saints team that absolutely decimated the Panthers, who's by all accounts the worst team in the NFL. So
that was like the only blowout of last week too. It was a massive.
Well,
blowout.
the Cowboys, they both came
Yeah.
back from just absolutely dominant ways. The Cowboys are at home. Ironically enough, they probably play worse at home sometimes than they do on the road. Just previous history. But I just, we're talking about these two teams are actually very similar. Just from their quarterbacks, great regular season stats, cash in the off season, have huge contracts. Are they living up to it? Absolutely fucking not.
Carr and Prescott, I think, are
very similar.
Very
Love to
similar.
underperform.
Yeah,
Love to underperform.
Underperforming is a great
But
word.
I'm still taking Dallas just because I just think they have the better team. And it is at home. And I think the Cowboys, they're gonna think that this is a different year. The Cowboys fans, they're gonna come back after this game and be like, see, we can actually win a playoff game. I'm not buying it, but I'm still taking the Cowboys in this game.
Yeah, I'll probably gonna end up following you, but I'll give you a reason why. We got the two big names here. You got Derek Carr and Dak Prescott. They're both throwing similar numbers right now. They're 19 of 23, 19, 24, whatever the case is. They're just over 200 yards, just under 200 yards. So they're very similar as far as I know. But I think the two biggest things that set the Cowboys apart from the Saints right now is got to be Ezekiel Elliott and CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb has been a huge name over the offseason with all the contract issues and where's he going to go and everything like that. Dak Prescott was a huge thing with the contract issues, but I think those three guys, Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, CeeDee Lamb, at home, I see them definitely winning this game. That's why I got to agree with you there. I hope Derek Carr can get some things together. I think after their big blowout win, that's going to give them hopefully some steam. I'd like to see them kind of carry that on and see them do something more than what they're projected with, seven
Well,
wins for the
it's
season.
gonna have to come in Week 3. I
Yeah.
just don't trust
Yeah.
in Derek Carr. I mean, do you think anything differently, Rich?
Well, this is what I think about Derek Carr and Dak Prescott is they're both great talents, but they can't quite do enough to really get all the way.
Right.
And are they past the time? Like, is it time to move on from them? I mean, the Cowboys signed Dak for that huge contract. I mean, they're all in on him, but like the Cowboys have always been struggling. And then Derek Carr struggled with the Raiders for a long time. It just seems like there's two great talents that can't quite get it to the final game, and so it's just interesting to see. Are they going to be able to take their experience and then use that to their advantage to then make it to go that way all the way, or is it just going to be a repeat of a disappointment again? So it's drama in the NFL, like always.
I think it's funny because of the NFC teams right now, the Cowboys have one of the easiest first 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And they're going to come out, they're going to look shit hot, right? And all Dallas Cowboys fans are like, oh, we're back, we're going to go to the Super
They do
Bowl,
this
we're going to
every
win the
year.
playoffs, we're going to take the division. And then the wheels are just going to fall completely the hell off. And they're going to go back to looking like the Cowboys we're expected to see the rest of the season. But it's funny because I was talking to someone about this late last week, over the weekend. And I was like, look at who they're playing, the first 6 weeks, and it's like win. And then it's like, doubtful, loss, right? And it's like you don't see this going anywhere past week 6, and so I'm excited to see. Obviously, I grew up in a family that was all Niners fans before we moved to Kansas City, and I became a Chiefs fan. So anytime we see the Cowboys lose in my family, it's always been a yay, shake the pom-poms, everyone gets excited. Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens this week with this game. Derek Carr, I think, coming off that huge win against the Panthers, I think he's going to bring some momentum. I think it's a little off in regards to the betting lines right now. Vegas has the win percentage at 61% for Dallas, 39% for New Orleans. I think that's slightly skewed. I want to see that more of like a 54, 55, 45.
Yeah.
But I think because Dallas is at home and because you got these powerhouse players that, whether they're washed up or not, and it's time for them to hang up the cleats and shoot out the locker room, I don't know. No, I'm interested to see what happens. I expect it to be an okay game, but I could also see it being a blowout if Dallas really just brings their shit to the table.
Yeah.
So, what do you see, Dean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, not playoff. I don't know, blowout. Maybe like a 14, if we want to call a 14-point win a blowout. I guess, the spread is at 6. I can see it being a 2-touchdown win by the Cowboys, but, it doesn't matter who wins. Honestly, is no bearing to what any playoff success they're going to have.
One thing, I agree. One thing I did want to bring up, though, in regards to the bet line, is the over-under on this. I'm big on these numbers here.
Right.
And I think this game is highly, I don't want to highlight, but I think it's decently over, or it's underrated as far as the over is concerned. I think having 46.5, you got two teams that their defenses allow a lot of points.
Yeah.
I see this going like a 56, 58 point game. And so I think the over here, I would gamble and take that bet, only because you see these two teams putting up a lot of points.
Yeah.
So I think that's skewed a little bit in Vegas. Any last minute comments on Dak Prescott and the Cowboys and Derek Carr and the Saints, Rich?
No, I think you guys covered it pretty well.
Awesome. I think one thing we have we had talking about the Bears and the Texans game, but I kind of want to change gears here. Instead of talking about these who's going to win this, who's going to lose this, let's talk about a game that everyone thinks. Let's play a game. Let's play a game. Let's pick a game that we think everyone is sure is going to win, and let's pick a game that we think had the best probability for an upset. What do you think, D?
Yeah, I mean, what's a game that I think for sure a team's going to win? I mean, I'll go back to the Chiefs game. I'll go back to the Cowboys game. There's a chance in hell they're going to lose. But, I mean, talking about, who I think is an upset pick. I'm looking at the Rams and Cardinals. I think the Cardinals
I am so glad you said that because I am so on point with you.
Yeah.
I was thinking of this earlier. That is a great freaking game. Tell me why. I want to hear your reason why, and then I'll tell you my reason why, but let's hear it.
I mean, when it comes to upset picks, sometimes it is just kind of random. You definitely get games in the year where it's just, like, for example, the Patriots, like, I can't really tell you, like, a logical reason why the Patriots, would have beaten the Bengals. It's just they just played better, and Joe Burrow played injured. But I think Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, they proved a lot against the Bills, which, the Bills are obviously no joke. Aside from the Chiefs, they're probably one of the best teams in the AFC. So being able to hang on in that game and at points, leading in that game, I think that did a lot to their confidence, and it showed that they're no slouches. Who knows? Maybe they only end up like winning 5 or 6 games, but they're gonna go back at home. They're playing a Rams team that got a little hurt last week. They lost Puka, and they were in the game, the Lions, but I always kind of thought the Lions were gonna win. They were still kind of controlling that game. This is just one of those fluky games that I think the Cardinals are gonna win.
Okay, I'm super stoked that you actually picked this game. Out of every game we could have possibly won, you went here, and this is exactly where my head was at. So that's awesome. I couldn't agree with you more. I think Matt Stafford of the Rams. Obviously, they had a little bit of an injury last week. I'm not sure how much that's going to hurt them, but I can see it hurting. You got the Rams traveling to Arizona, right? Arizona fans are stoked right now after what we just saw in the draft. Kyler Murray's back in full health. You've got an Arizona bird's nest nation here that are on fire, right? And now they lost their first game. Yeah, it's expected. I don't think we see them win more than 5, like you said. But I think Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, traveling down here to Arizona, playing in a stadium that's going to be, the energy level is going to be, I think it's going to be sick.
Well,
And
there's going to be more Rams fans than Cardinals fans.
probably,
Yeah.
but I still think the energy level for the Cardinals themselves is just going to be they have a lot to prove. Obviously, Kyler's got a lot to prove, and I think it's going to be a good game. I like the fact that the Rams are favored only by 2 right now on the spread, and I like the fact that the Vegas predictions has them at like 54, 45, 46ish, whatever it is. So I really like those numbers. But again, I agree with you. I think Arizona, if there's a team that can upset a team that should win, I think it's this Arizona Cardinal team, man.
Yeah, and they're at home. Yeah.
Any thoughts, Rich? What do you think, bud? I know it's a random game we threw out there just with no thought there, but do you have anything to say about that?
About which game?
The Cardinals and the Rams. So what we're saying is like the Rams are traveling down here to play the Cardinals, right?
Yeah.
Rams are very favored to win. We don't expect them to not win. But if there was a team that could upset kind of a sure bet, what would we pick? And we both picked the Arizona Cardinals and the Rams game. So and we were just saying that Sean McVay, Matt Stafford's coming down, and I think the energy level for the Cardinals fans and the fact that Kyler Murray is healthy. We've got some good targets. All of the management for Arizona has changed. The coaching has changed. Yeah. It's a whole different team. So I think the energy level, the expectations, I think we could see an upset. Yeah,
I mean, it could happen. Any given Sunday, right?
Any given Sunday, man. I tell you what, let's wrap up some NFL. Let's talk one last game. Only because I brought it up and I don't want to disregard it. But let's talk about the Bears and the Texans. Any thoughts about that, D? What are you thinking, man?
Yeah, Bears had a fluky win last week. They probably shouldn't have won. I think the Texans are locked and loaded, man. I think this is a coming out party. As much as it pains me as a Colts fan, and I want them to win the division. The Texans, they just got so many players in the offseason. Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs. I know Stephon Diggs is a prima donna. He's a diva, but he's, at the end of the day, he's one of the best wideouts in my opinion.
Collins too, right next to him.
Nico Collins had a breakout year last year. So they got a ton of weapons, and their defense led by D'Amico Ryans. They're just always going to be stout on defense. You got a ton of guys out there, Stingley, and that guy from Alabama. I can't, you guys, Will Anderson. He's going to be a stud. So I mean, they just got a ton of guys out there, and they're playing a Bears team. Caleb Williams, second start. Do I think the moment's probably too big for him in his second start? I think so. I think the Texans they win this. What's the line? I could definitely see it being, a 10-point win, 14-point win. I think the Texans they're gonna have a really good year, and primetime game. I think they just kind of show that.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I want to talk about it being primetime. You can't disregard Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
I like the fact that the Bears are traveling after their kind of fluky win. They did look good, but it was an interesting win for them. They're traveling to a Texans team that's also 1-0. They're playing at home. You got C.J. Stroud that's throwing a ball like freaking madman right now.
Yeah.
And you named all the offensive targets already, so I'm not going to rehash those out there. But I think that him getting a hold of that ball and running it, I don't think the Bears defense is going to be able to shut him down. Again, primetime Sunday Night Football, it's got a different level of energy to it. Right. Like, it's always just a fun game. I think Houston shines when they're on primetime spot. I think they're really gonna. I think they're gonna take care of business, and I think they knock this game out of the park. Yep. Rich? What do you think, man? I know we've been talking about football a lot, so I don't want to harp on it. I just want to talk a little bit about prime time and see what everybody thoughts were.
I mean, I love Sunday Night Football. I'll just say that. Yeah. I think it's the best night of football.
Right.
You've been watching it all day, and then you got the final shebang at the end of the night. It's always super fun to watch. Obviously, like, you guys are a little bit more knowledgeable than me when it comes to the NFL, so I don't have too much thoughts on this particular game, but I'm just excited for football every weekend.
Hey, man, football's my favorite season.
100%.
All right, man. Well, that's all. That's what we have for that. So let's do that. Let's shift some gears. I know we got started a little after 5:30. Sitting at 6:20 right now. Let's talk some college football. We got some big games tomorrow.
We'll talk a couple games.
A couple games, and we'll call it a night. How about that?
Yep,
let's do it. So I was thinking, if we're going to go this route, obviously there's some big games that are going to jump off the screen. I think we got Alabama, Wisconsin. We got Boston College, Mizzou. LSU, and South Carolina college game day actually.
Yeah.
So that'll be college game day. Let's talk about those. Let's jump in. Let's talk about these bad boys.
Yeah, so LSU, huge win week 2 there. After that, surprising loss. They should have won against USC. Let's just call it what it is. But I think LSU is just fine. They did lose to USC, but I think they'll get back on track. They'll be back to how they were, and I think they'll still be in contention for that college football playoff. At the end of the year here, and they're playing South Carolina. SEC team, but obviously usually one of the lower SEC teams.
Last few years, yeah.
I think they'll take care of business. Even their loss, they showed a lot of qualities that makes me think, okay, they'll still make the college football playoff. Obviously, LSU is favored. What's the spread? I'm kind of curious.
I'll have to look it up. I thought it was...
The spread is as 8.5.
Yeah.
I think they cover that. I know it's in South Carolina, but I think they take care of business. At the end of the day, LSU is just too talented. Their quarterback, who had been sitting behind, Jane Daniels, and then Joe Burrow, he's been there from the start. He showed me a lot.
Yeah.
Messinger. So I think they'll have a pretty sound victory against South Carolina.
I think South Carolina is going to bring. I think the loss last week with LSU. I did not see that coming.
It was a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, a couple weeks ago. Sorry. The USC loss a couple weeks ago. It was like 27-20. That was a shocker for me. I did not see that coming. USC just played a whole different game that we'd seen from them in a while, especially against an LSU SEC team like LSU.
Yeah.
I think them going into South Carolina, being college game day, LSU doesn't lose many games. I mean, they're a Bama, they're a top 5 contender every year. But I think the quarterback for South Carolina, Sellers, if I recall, he's just throwing the ball like crazy. He's got Sanders, that badass running back that sits in the backfield. I think they're gonna make it challenging for LSU, but I like what you said. I think the 8.5 spread is probably a little under exaggerated. I think we probably see this going more of a 14, 17 point win game. But I'm excited. Obviously, I love college game day. It makes it one of my favorite things I wake up to Saturday morning. Watch that for a couple hours, get hyped up for some good college football. But yeah, I think LSU gets it done. I see him winning by 14. Definitely money line. The over under was 48. Man, you got 2 teams that are powerhouse, but I think that's probably pretty well done. I think I like the 48. I don't think it's going to go over. I don't think it's going to go under. I think it's going to be right around there.
Yeah, that's a risky play right there.
It's a risky play.
Yeah.
I think it's really well laid out. I think Vegas probably got that one right. Yeah, so I'm going to say LSU by 14.
Yeah. I'm going to say in the same ballpark. I
Yeah.
mean, you just never know, but yeah. I think they'll for sure win. That's basically the bottom line there. So the next game that I kind of want to talk about, you can obviously jump in anytime you want, Rich, if you had insight on that. But we can go in a couple of different directions. I mean, what do you think is kind of more of a marquee matchup? You think in Alabama, Wisconsin? I know you're a big Mizzou guy, Boston College, Mizzou. Kind of a quirky game, just because we're talking about 2 teams in Boston College and Mizzou that they're no one would have. I mean, obviously Mizzou, they have a lot of expectations coming from a really good year last year. Boston College, they beat Florida State.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, do you think Boston College, them being ranked, is justified? Do you think Mizzou are they overrated? What do you think?
As far as the rankings are concerned, obviously it makes me excited to see my Tigers in the top 10, alma mater. But I think in all reality, they're blowing teams out. Yeah, they're non-con teams, but for some reason, the SEC this year, not just Mizzou, but you got Kentucky, you got Bama, who never takes non-D1 non-con games. They've got non-con games this year. They won some early wins.
Tennessee's got a really good team.
It's an SEC conference that traditionally doesn't take non-con games like lightly. Right, and so you got traditionally Alabama play LSU for a non-con game, and it still counts. But that strength of schedule really does a wonder when you're trying to get selection of bids for CFP. I think the rankings right now are justified. Boston College is 2-0, Missouri's 2-0. They've had 2 big old wins, 40+ win games. They're just blowing things out of the water. I like Mizzou being at number 5. Is it a little aggressive right now? Probably. I think so. I could definitely see them being between a 13 and 15.
Yeah.
But not a 5. I mean, but unfortunately, that's just the way the ranking system works right now. But which I'm not mad about it. But I think we're going to decline. But I like seeing it there regardless.
I think Mizzou actually blows Boston College out, believe it or not.
I think so,
I think
too.
so, too.
It's hard. There's not too many people that come into Mizzou Arena and win, especially when you got a team like Mizzou right now. They're just kicking ass. I love my boy Cook. That dude is just throwing a ball like no other. He's throwing to guys like Noel. We've got Weeks Jr. It's a badass team. I'm excited to see him. I see Mizzou winning this game by 20 points. I think the spread was like 16. If I recall.
I can see it being 41-6, Mizzou. Yeah, Mizzou loves to dominate teams that they should win, which is a good thing.
Yeah, 16.
You know, win, beat the teams that you're supposed to beat, and then make it competitive against the teams that you probably should lose. So I think Mizzou is doing that, doing a good job. You're looking at other teams that should be beating the teams they should be and aren't doing that. So I mean, right now Mizzou's at a good spot right now, and I mean, like I said, we both picked Mizzou there. But I want to kick it off to Alabama, Wisconsin. I know Rich will probably like to talk about Alabama. They're just one of the marquee teams out there. You were looking at the predictor.
I'm gonna refrain from talking college football, guys.
Fair enough,
Fair enough, man.
I came here to talk fights. We had a great conversation about the UFC, so I'll let you guys handle the
100%.
Absolutely,
No worries,
absolutely.
Man. Well, Alabama, they're heavily favored. I don't think there's any chance that Bama loses this game. Truly, Wisconsin, they're good in the trenches, but Bama's just better. They got SEC linemen, even on the defensive line of things. Yeah, I mean, do you think there's any way that Wisconsin wins or even makes it competitive?
Absolutely not. I think this. I mean, no, absolutely not. Bama's favored 92-8%. Right there, it's absolutely.
What's the spread?
I have to bring it back up. It's
16.
It's 16.5, but the
I think they cover.
Matchup predictor has it 92%, 8%, like literally flat and flat. I think they're not only going to cover that, they're going to make Wisconsin look really bad at home. Alabama's traveling up north. They're going up and playing in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a really good home team. But they're nothing compared to what Alabama's going to bring. I think they've got this momentum behind them. They got a lot to prove with Nick Saban leaving, losing some teammates from the draft and going out there. I think they just got a lot to prove, and Bama's going to show up and be like, hey, don't doubt us. We're still this top 5 team. Now they're not right now, but they're still going to be. They're going to show up there.
I think they actually are number 5 or number 4. Actually,
I think Mizzou's number 5 as of right now, but
Bama should be higher. I don't know, like they should be higher. They're number 4. They should be higher than Mizzou.
They're going to show up. They're going to play ball. They're going to ball out. I expect this to be honestly a boring game because it's just going to be Bama running the ball every single time. Wisconsin's defense is a good defense, but they're not equipped for an SEC South Alabama squad to come in here to go roll over them. So I don't know. I just see Bama just completely dominating this game. I would hate to see this as a college game day game because this would just be a boring college game day.
Boring college game day. Week 3 is just there's not that many interesting matchups, guys. I mean, there's a couple that we pointed out. In the coming weeks, they'll be more interesting. But I mean, right now it's all about proving. Okay, are we capable of making this college football playoff? Arizona's playing Kansas State right now. We're talking about teams that, okay, they're setting themselves up to have a resume. Alabama, got to have a resume. All these teams are setting themselves up to have a resume because I know it just expanded to the 12-team playoff. But at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of teams vying for that college football playoff. You get the automatic bid if they win the conference championship. There's going to be a lot of at-large bids at stake. You talk about Tennessee, LSU, Bama, Georgia, just in the SEC. You're talking about the Big 10, the Big 12. So there's going to be a lot of competition at this point. We might be looking at these week 3 slated games and be thinking, okay, well, it's just week 3, but it's all about creating that resume right now. So at the end of the year, when that committee starts gathering the information, you stand out and you stack up with these other teams.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, guys, we're right at our hour mark. Rich, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. I know we're losing some sunlight now, and we're relying on our natural light for our lighting today, so we were excited about that. So but thank you so much for joining, man. We really appreciate your insight, your commentary. It was great meeting you, Al. We definitely look forward to seeing you around. Dylan, always, man, appreciate you. You bring some great insight every time. And for all the viewers out there, thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate you guys. Any last words before we head out, guys?
No, man, just ready for the weekend.
Let's get some weekend.
A lot of sports.
Rich?
Guys, thanks so much for having me on. If you ever want to talk fights again, you know where to find me. I'm happy to do so.
Absolutely,
100%,
dude.
man.
Brother, have a great weekend, man. Be safe. Thanks for joining again. Everyone watching, thank you all, and we got to see you around. See you next time.